Forward footsteps. Bhu Bhuva, of the lower and upper planets. Swa, as well as of heaven. Cha, also. Shemasya, of protection of all that we have. Saranasya, of fearlessness. Cha, also. Sarvakama, all that we need. Varasya, of all benedictions. Api, exactly. Hare, of the Lord. Charanaha, the lotus feet. Aspadam, shelter. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki. Please repeat. Thus the forward footsteps of the Lord are the shelter for the upper, lower, and heavenly planets, as well as for all that we need. His lotus feet serve as protection from all kinds of fear. Purport, please hear. For absolute protection from all sorts of fear, as well as for all our needs of life, we must take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, not only in this planet, but also in all upper, lower, and heavenly planets. This absolute dependence on the lotus feet of the Lord is called pure devotional service, and it is directly hinted at within this passage. No one should have any kind of doubt in this matter, nor should one be inclined to seek the help of any other demigods, because all of them are dependent on Him only. Everyone except the Lord Himself is dependent on the mercy of the Lord. Even the all-pervading Supersoul is also dependent on the supreme aspect of Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Let's do Mangala Charan. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Yutapatakamallam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarayobhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyaevacha Pratitanam Pavalebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Vikramo bhurbhavasvascha Shemasya saranasya cha Sarvakama varasyapi Hareshcharana aspadam. Thus the forward steps of the Lord are the shelter for the upper, lower and heavenly planets, as well as for all that we need. His lotus feet serve as protection from all kinds of fear. So this chapter has been named by Prabhupada as Purusha Shukta confirmed. This chapter is the parallel for the famous Vedic hymns of the Purusha Shukta in the Vedas, and it basically states how all the different parts or necessary ingredients of the universes are generated, and how like deities or preceding deities of various manifestations actually enter into them. These Purusha Shukta prayers, they're usually sung when deities are installed into temples or manifested into a temple. In this chapter, Brahmadev is telling Narada about how different limbs of the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu provide materials for this universe. When we read further on in this canto, chapter 10 goes through how all these limbs came about, or how they originated. So the theme for the first 17 verses of this canto is, it just tells us what exactly is this universe composed of. The main points that we'll be covering today from the purport would be like the fear factor that humans have in our lives, our total dependence on Krishna, for us to not rely on demigods, and also for Krishna to protect his devotees. In this material world, we are always in some sort of paranoia, or there's always some sort of fear factor that we have. So when we hear verses like this, we kind of realize the importance of what it is of taking shelter of the Lord. In this Kali Yuga, we're trapped in this Mrityu Loka, as Prabhupada said, for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to have Krishna in the center of our lives. For us, we've forgotten this. It's in the deepest part of our hearts, but everyone's forgotten that our lives should be based around Krishna. One needs to be totally dependent on Krishna and have confidence in him. The confidence should be in our sadhana alone, not just in Krishna. If we're doing our sadhana properly, and if there's no shortcuts, then when we exit this world, there'll be no coming back. But if we're doing our sadhana just for the purpose of, just for the sake of doing it, then we'll be back next life as well. So fear is a normal human tendency, and it usually happens when loved ones, or even yourself, when you're in danger of harm or like death. So once, an example, so once Krishna was having prasadam with Rukmini Mata, and Rukmini Mata was serving him, and one devotee of Krishna was walking in the forest, and a wild dog came and attacked the devotee. So as Krishna is, Krishna quickly got up to go save the devotee, and he was in Dwarka, and he got up and then he quickly sat back down and started eating prasadam. So Rukmini Mata was a bit confused. She's like, what just happened? Like, you got up and like, why were you like, what just happened? And then Krishna said, told Rukmini Mata that one of my devotees was in danger, a wild dog was attacking him. So Rukmini Mata, confused again, he's like, then why didn't you go save him? So Krishna responded, he said, I didn't go because I couldn't tell the difference between the devotee and the dog. The devotee picked up a rock and started attacking the dog. So both the dog and the devotee had aggression, and they were both angry at each other. So Krishna couldn't tell the difference, so he didn't know who to save. So the moral here is that we become agitated and angry when we don't surrender to Krishna, but then we have no faith. Then we have no faith that whatever has happened in Krishna's will, that we'll seek his shelter and help. If we accept it, we do not become agitated and angry. So the 3 A's here are agitated, anxious, and angry. So when we are agitated and anxious, we become angry, and then all 3 A's combined make an E, which is envy. When envy is coming, it's coming from a P, which is pride, and then pride is followed by envy, and then once we have pride and envy together, it's just full-blown anger. So an example, so Prithu Maharaj was a great personality, but a little bit of Indra's presence in his life changed the whole course of his life. So how did such a devotee of the Lord, how can he become like the 3 A's, angry, agitated, and anxious? But Prithu Maharaj took association of Indra, which is called Asat Sangha. So how did he take this association? He wasn't like holding hands with Indra, but he was meditating on Indra, which is all you need. Your mind is the strongest part of our body. Prithu Maharaj's mind was kept on Indra, and then the more you remember that, which causes you anxiety and anxious unknown to you, it's like poison in our body. It gets transferred throughout our whole body, and then we stop all our sadhana. Yeah. Thus, we shouldn't fear all these materialistic things, because we would forget Krishna while we're thinking of all these things. So what we should do is embrace everything that is going wrong in our life as it is a test from Krishna, as he's testing our sadhana for him, or he's testing our faith in him, and is testing if we can sustain it over all the problems that we have in our lives. So Krishna protects us through these fears, and he protects us through his names. So the famous verse, Nam Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddho Nityamukta Abhinatva Nama Namino. It is said, Purna Shuddho, meaning Krishna's name is complete, and it is the form of all transcendental mellows. And then Abhinatva Nama Namino, meaning it is not a material name under any condition, and it is not less powerful than Krishna himself. Prabhupada, he said one thing, he was saying in one of his lectures, when we say mango, 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 a mango doesn't appear. But if I'm saying Krishna, 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 Krishna is here in this room right now. Strong faith in Krishna consciousness can elevate us to the highest perfection of life. In Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 22.62, it says, Shraddha sabde vishvasa kahe shudra nishkaya Krishna bhakti kale sarva karma kritahaya. Faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. When one is engaged in the duties of Krishna consciousness, he need not act in relationship to the material world with obligations to family traditions, humanity, or nationality. Fruitive activities are the engagements of one's reactions from past good or bad deeds. When one is awake in Krishna consciousness, he will need no longer endeavor for good results in his activities in this material world. When one is situated in Krishna consciousness, all activities are absolute plain, for they are no longer subject to dualities, like good and bad. The highest perfection of Krishna consciousness is renunciation of the material conception of life. This state is automatically achieved by progressive Krishna consciousness. So there's a very good example. Once there was a son and his grandfather, and the grandfather wanted to test his son's knowledge. So he told the son, he gave him a coal basket which has holes in it, and he said, go get some coal. And so the son brought some coal back, and the basket was very dirty. So he told every day that I want you to go to the river, fill this basket up with water, and come back. And unless it's full at top, I won't accept the water from you. So the son would go every day to the river, fill the water up. Obviously, if there's holes in the basket, the water would just drain out. So after a few weeks, days, months, and then the son was frustrated. He's like, why can't I fill this up? So every time he would go, and then the water was fall out. So he went back to his grandfather. He said, this is impossible. So the grandfather said, so do you understand what just happened? He's like, no. So the grandfather said, look at this basket. Even though the water is like our chanting, the more we chant, the cleaner the basket got. That's like our hearts. The more we chant, the cleaner our hearts become. So when it comes to dependence on Krishna, as it says in this purport, like this absolute dependence on the lotus feet of the Lord is called pure devotional service. But then when we come across examples in like the Bhagavatam, we sometimes get confused. So there's an example of when Kunti Devi was far more like favored by Krishna than Devki Mata. Lord Krishna didn't save any of the children of Devki, but when it came to Kunti Devi, he saved all her children. This was done because Devki's husband Vasudev was still living, whereas Kunti Devi was a widow, and there was no one in Kunti Devi's life except Krishna. So the conclusion is Krishna endows more favor to a devotee who's in greater danger. But sometimes he puts his pure devotees in such a state of like dangerous situations that in that condition of helplessness, the devotee becomes more attached to the Lord. So the more the attachment is for the Lord, the higher the success is for a devotee. So we sometimes always think about like, why do I have so many problems in this life? But what Prabhupada says is you should think as these problems as a blessing, because it's more times for us to remember Krishna in the time of this problem. So we as humans have a tendency in this Mrityuloka to seek Maya Sukhaya, which means seeking temporary illusory happiness. So Prabhupada describes us as we're monkeys in a cage, but we have chickpeas, which is like happiness. So the monkey keeps eating these chickpeas, but the chickpeas eventually finish, they're temporary. And thus, it's never sustained everlasting happiness. For us, what we need to develop is everlasting happiness, Krishna Prem, not just doing our sadhana just for the sake of doing it. So we think of ourselves as like very intelligent because like all of our degrees and like going to school for this many years, university, everything. But Bhakti Vikas Swami, like very finally in one of his classes, he says, mundane educational qualifications, they're no evidence of genuine intelligence. Rather, they're a certificate of someone's stupidity and least misfortune in having dedicated much time and energy into amassing information which has literally no intrinsic value. So I thought that was pretty funny. There's also another example. So once in a plane, Einstein was going with a Gujarati person in a plane. They were flying together. And so this is a story told by Gaur Gopal Das Prabhu. So you might have heard it. But so Einstein was very bored. It's a very long flight. And he said to the Gujarati person, he's like, let's play a game. I'll ask you a question. If you answer it, I'll give you 50,000 rupees. And then you ask me a question. If I can't answer it, then I'll give you 50. You can give me 50 rupees. And then the Gujarati person is making money. Obviously, is going to say yes. Okay, let's play. So he's like, okay, you go first. So Einstein asked him, what's the distance between the Earth and the Moon? So the Gujarati person just quickly pulled out 50 rupees and just gave him it. He's like, I don't know. And then the Gujarati person asked him, he's like, what goes up a mountain with 3 legs and comes down with 4? So Einstein, this is the greatest scientist ever lived on this earth. He's full thinking, trying to use all his educational background, everything. But just because of that little, So Einstein couldn't answer it. He tried asking all his friends that were on the plane, everything. He couldn't answer the question. So he's like very unwillingly, he gave him the 50,000 rupees, and then the Gujarati person just went back to sleep. So Einstein's like, tell me the answer. This is like, you just asked me a question, I just gave you money. So then the Gujarati person said, I don't know. So he gave him 50 rupees. So then the moral of this is, it doesn't matter how much educational background you have, but like, if from this I got like what Bhakti Vikas Swami said, all our university degrees, everything, if it's not used for the pleasure of Krishna, it has no value, or like Maharaj said, no intrinsic value. In Bhagavad Gita 10.10, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted to me, to serving me with love, I give them understanding by which they can come to me. So the Lord gives intelligence to pure devotees so that they may be elevated to the highest perfectional stage. He doesn't give us a degree or anything. He gives us the highest form of intelligence. It is confirmed herein that a pure devotee who constantly agrees in the loving service of the Lord is awarded all the knowledge necessary to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For such a devotee, there is nothing valuable to be achieved but like the Lord's service. If one serves faithfully, there is no possibility of frustration, because the Lord himself takes charge of a devotee's advancement. If the Lord is seated in everyone's heart, but he knows a devotee's motive behind doing the sadhana. Sometimes, like for me, I'm a youth, so like sometimes your parents can have that factor that you have to chant or you have to get up early. But unless you, in your own heart, you get up early, without anyone telling you, and you start chanting, it has no real value until you, by your own self, you do it, not by someone else telling you. The Lord, so like I said, the Lord is seated in everyone's heart, and He knows the motive and arranges everything accordingly. Everything's achievable. Prabhupada used to say, just chant. That's the only answer. So in other words, the pseudo-devotee who is anxious to achieve material gains, he cannot attain the highest perfectional stage because the Lord is a knowledge for his motive. So one merely has to become sincere in his purpose for doing his sadhana, and then the Lord is there to help him in every way. So dependency is like a subsection of surrender, like I've said here. In Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.36, very famous verse, Kayena vacha manasendriyerva buddhyatmana vanushrita swabhavat karoti yat yat sakalam parasmei narayaneti samarpayatet. It says in this verse, in accordance with the particular nature one has acquired in conditioned life, whatever one does with body, words, mind, senses, intelligence, or purified consciousness, one should offer to the Supreme, thinking, this is for the pleasure of Lord Narayana. So another Bhakti Vikas Swami example. Someone asked him a question once, and he asked, "How can I apply spirituality in modern life?" So I thought that was a pretty reasonable question to ask. But obviously not, because Maharaj quickly got very angry at the question, and all he responded was just chant. That's the only answer. And then for the next 5 minutes of the class, he scolded the devotee for asking such a stupid question. So that's the level of faith and trust we need to have in the process. So if Bhakti Vikas Swami, instead of giving an elaborate, huge answer, all he said was just chant. And how hard is it to chant, just to sit down and concentrate we have 24 hours, just for 2 hours a day. That's all we can devote to Krishna service. So, sometimes we think that we should have dependency on the Lord, but it is said that why should we have dependency on the Lord? That's a pretty deep question. Why we should have dependency on the Lord? So we think. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says Sarva Samartha. That's what describes Krishna. He is all capable. In this purport, it says, it talks about how we shouldn't approach demigods for our material satisfaction. So here it says, Krishna is Sarva Samartha, meaning he's all capable. But demigods, they're only Samartha, which means they're just capable, not all capable. So nowadays, in Kali Yuga, everyone has a dependency to on a guru or demigod that they're following. You go to India, there's a new guru in every house. Even they might not be good, but they might not be too bad. But there's so many variations. But then they're all attempting to preach as well. So Prabhupada says, for the living entity who desires to return to Godhead, material desires are impediments. A pure devotee of the Lord is therefore not awarded material benefits desired by less intelligent living entities, who therefore prefer to worship demigods of the material world rather than to engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada's literally just saying, Prabhupada's translating that we shouldn't, if you're less intelligent, then you'll be going to demigods for your material satisfaction. So Prabhupada here, he's not saying that we shouldn't worship demigods, but we should worship demigods in a way that that they are devotees of the Lord. That's why we're worshipping them, not for their potencies. So sometimes Prabhupada used to ask a question. So one devotee asked him in one of the lectures, is I follow this demigod or this demigod. So why is that bad? So Prabhupada said, why are you worshipping a demigod who he himself is dependent on Krishna? So you're following someone who isn't self-dependent like us, but so that means anyone on earth can be I'm a demigod, because we're all dependent on Krishna just like all the demigods. So very beautiful verse was given to me by Virish Krishnadas Prabhuji. Vipaddo neva vipadda. So vipaddo means calamity and neva means not. So what we think is calamity is not calamity. Sampada neva sampada. Sampada means prosperity, and it says what we think is prosperity is not prosperity. Vipad vismaran Vishnu. Smaran means remembering, and vismaran means forgetting. So calamity is forgetting him, and sampad narayana smriti. Prosperity is a remembrance of the Lord. So in this Kali Yuga, it's like a perfect opportunity for us to embrace this calamity, which is in the form of all our problems in our lives. And we should just accept it as prasad from Bhagwan, from Krishna, to gain a deeper bond with him, because the more we're helpless, the more we're chanting, the more we have a greater connection with Krishna. So in Bhagavad Gita 10.52, it says, Atava bhanunetena kim jantena tavarjuna vishtabhyaham idam krishnam ekam sena sito jagat. So it says, but what is their need? What need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. So as said in like this verse today, thus the forward footsteps of the Lord are the shelter for the upper, lower and heavenly planets. So then Krishna is literally just confirming here. He says, I am the single fragment of myself I pervade to support this entire universe, a single fragment. So Krishna, as Krishna is saying, what is the need for all this detailed knowledge? So Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj was quoting this verse, and he said, don't worry about all this philosophy, all this Vedic, like astrology, knowledge, everything. Just don't worry about it. Just chant, and gradually everything that you're learning in Bhagavatam class or in any class, everything, it will slowly just come to you as you chant, as you progress. So it says, he said, just chant and gradually everything will fit in place and you will gain spiritual knowledge. It is said Krishna protects us, but what exactly does he protect us from? Like tsunamis, earthquakes, like life on this earth? No, none of that is true. He doesn't protect our material body at all. The greatest source of protection that Krishna can provide us is that our consciousness will always remember him. That's the only protection that Krishna should provide us. One of the, in Mukunda Mala Stotra, the third verse, Mukunda Mudna Pranipatya Vache Bhavantam Ekantam Eyantam Artham Avishmishtastvak Charanara Vrinde Bhave Bhave Mestu Bhavat Prasadyat. So this should be our only desire. So this verse itself, like if I'm going to read the translation, but this verse, it says, O Lord Mukunda, I bow down my head to your lordship and respectfully ask you to fulfill this one desire. So this is kind of like hypocritical desire, like you're asking for a desire, but the one desire he's asking for is that in my future births I will, by your lordship's mercy, always remember and never forget your lotus feet. So that's such a beautiful desire to have in your heart. That should be the only desire in our heart. So I'm going to finish with this very beautiful verse. Vani guna nukatane shavano katayam hastau cha karma sumanastava padayorna smrityam sirastava nivasa jagat praname drishti satam darshane stu bhavatanunam. Henceforward, may all our words describe your pastimes. May all our ears engage in oral reception of your glories. May our hands, legs, and other senses engage in actions pleasing you. And may our minds always think of your lotus feet. May our heads offer obeisances to everything within this world, because all the things are also your different forms. And may our eyes see the forms of Vaishnavas who are non-different from you. So, in this, there's a process that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has given, which is the process of bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. Everything should be engaged in the service of Krishna. Everything, the mind, the body, all the senses, organs, should be engaged in Krishna's service. This is to be learned from expert devotees like Narada and Sambhu. This is the process. We cannot manufacture our own way of understanding to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For it is not that everything one manufactures or concords will lead to understanding of God. So such a proposition, yata mata tata pata, is foolish. Krishna says, Bhaktyam ekya graha. Only by executing the activities of bhakti can one understand me. It's from Bhagavatam 11.14.21. And then here it also says, this is called anukulyena Krishna silyenam, remaining engaged favorably in the service of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.